the way that they have used information that's been shared by the United States or other sources to try to cherry pick some facts about those negotiations in a way that radically distorts the negotiating position of the United States and our international partners. That is counterproductive and certainly something that we are not appreciative of, to put it mildly.
Welcome back to America's Forum. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest there saying Israel is, quote, cherry-picking the facts. Alongside Miranda Khan here on the anchor desk, we're joined by Jack Berkman from Newsmax Washington, and also in Washington via telephone, we're pleased to be joined by Rabbi Abe Cooper, the Associate Dean of the Simon Wiesenthal Center. And Rabbi, let me ask you, this characterization of cherry-picking facts from the White House, does this add to an already frayed relationship between the U.S. and Israel with those remarks coming on the eve of the Prime Minister's address to Congress?
Unfortunately, it does. You know, it almost sounds like it's being described as a spectator sport. This is an existential threat for Israel, for all the Arab neighbors, some of whose leaders we've met with and expressed the same alarm that Israel has. And it's unfortunate that instead of sort of calming the waters, you know, there's obviously a commitment made to sort of make this a flashpoint, when in fact this isn't about whether the deal is good for Israel or not. The question is whether a bad deal is better than no deal, and I think that's the main reason why Congress invited Bibi Netanyahu to bring the perspective of Israel, and in an extended sense, the whole region, about why there is such deep concern that if you take off, you know, give the Iranians the capability of being nuclear ready, you know, basically on a moment's notice, that takes a regional bully into something that's a much, much greater threat. And there doesn't
Rabbi,
seem to be much of an understanding on that issue.
Let me ask you this. Would like to know what inside information you might have on this speech. I mean, they've been kind of teasing that there's a big surprise. I've heard all over Congress in the last couple of days and really all over Washington that some kind of big surprise is coming from Netanyahu. Could that big surprise be that the Iranians already have a bomb? What are you hearing anything? Do you have any intel you can share with us?
I'm, you know, locked away in security waiting to get to a meeting. I will see the Prime Minister right after the speech. But I think that the basic issue here, as much as some, you know, people inside the administration, the media want to make this as a rift between two allies. It's a much more fundamental issue for Israel and her immediate neighbors. And by the way, with the help of North Korea, with the ballistic and the nuclear, Iran's reach is rapidly expanding, and if they can threaten Israel today or tomorrow, who knows what they're able to reach in a short period of time. I don't have any inside information, and frankly, since I'm a rabbi, if I told you I did, I'm not so sure your listeners should believe me.
Well, Rabbi, President Obama sat down with Reuters for an interview. He was asked to explain why he described Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech to Congress on Iran as destructive. Take a listen to his response.
I don't think it's permanently destructive. I think that it is a distraction from what should be our focus. And our focus should be, how do we stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon?
Do you agree with the president, Rabbi?
Well, I think there's one small problem with that statement. I'm happy to hear that he sees it as a temporary thing, but really the goalposts have been moved. The original statements from the President administration going back, I think, almost 2 years was how to stop Iran from being capable of making a bomb, and now the language has changed in a very dramatic sense, and it appears that what might be on the table or what we might be reading about in the next couple of weeks could be a deal in which the sanctions come off. There could be a 5 or 10 year deal, but once the sanctions are gone, and you might say you're looking at someone who's 8 months pregnant. That doesn't bring stability to the region. That just makes things really worse. So, look, the president is the person who has all the cards. Only the administration knows the full parameters of what's going on. But how he describes the parameters of those talks is dramatically different than what the administration was talking about before. And I think that's what's at the core of the concern of Israel and so many of the Arab neighbors in the region. But let's understand something that...
And Rabbi, we'll have to stop you right there. When we come back, we're going to talk with the Rabbi about social media, specifically ISIS threats against Twitter. Stay tuned. Welcome back to America's Forum. As you see in this article from BuzzFeed, Twitter has suspended thousands of accounts linked to ISIS and its supporters, and ISIS has responded, threatening Twitter's founder and employees over blocked accounts, reportedly saying, quote, "Your virtual war on us will cause a real war on you." Let's continue our conversation now with Rabbi Abe Cooper, who joins us by telephone as he is in Washington awaiting the speech of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and of course Jack Bergman also taking part in the conversation from Newsmax Washington. Rabbi, when you were last here, you were talking about your personal appeal to these social media sites and other internet providers to try and stop ISIS. Now ISIS is saying it's going to take action. How seriously are you taking these threats by ISIS?
Well, look, anytime the lunatics from ISIS threaten violence, you have to take it seriously. But it's also worth focusing on as to why they threaten Twitter. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts and protesting people in Congress, until very, very recently, I'm talking about a week or two ago, Twitter was the weapon of choice for ISIS, Al-Shabaab, and all the other groups in creating their all too effective marketing campaigns to get young people, including women, to come, and train or stay in the area. I guess in the name of free speech, Twitter basically let them use their most powerful marketing platform to do whatever they wanted. Obviously, in terms of the beheadings, the burning, and everything else that's happened in the last few weeks, the pressure has been enormous. And actually, February 26th, ISIS supporters announced it was going to be Twitter Day to, send out tens of thousands of more pro-terrorist Twitter reports. And I know for a fact that the Minister of Interior of France last Friday was up in the Silicon Valley a few months before the Germans were there. The Europeans are furious at Twitter, and they point to Facebook and some of the other companies that are at least trying to be on the right side of the issue. So the fact that ISIS is now enraged, specifically at Twitter, is because they've had a free pass till now. And they don't like the fact that Twitter may finally be changing. I think overall it's a very positive development. Twitter will now put its very substantial technological skills to work to stop them from getting on their social media platforms in the first place.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it just seems to me ISIS is making itself look small? I mean, an attack on Twitter, it seems like a silly tactic. Some of these beheadings, I mean, all of this, in a lot of ways, it's not only cruel but silly. There's a better way tactically, it seems to me. If I were running ISIS, there's a better way tactically. Not only are these people evil, but they make themselves look small. Do you agree with that?
Actually, I don't, because I think if you analyze what it is that ISIS and Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, etc., have gotten out of Twitter, you can understand, a sense of alarm, because until now, they've been able to use the most powerful marketing tool out there in order to speak to 17-year-olds in London or get the teenage girls to get on a plane. Or sometimes to even do some command and control or training stuff for the lone wolf. Twitter has been a very critical piece in their online and marketing food chain. If that's suddenly removed, that's going to create, at least temporarily, some significant problems for Twitter and company. So, it's not going to make it any less difficult for them to actually behead more innocent victims.
Rabbi,
but it will put a cramp into their international game plan.
Final 20 seconds, Rabbi. You're scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu after his joint address to Congress. What will be the subject matter, or what do you think you'll be saying to the Prime Minister?
I think we'll probably just have to look at his face to know whether or not he felt he was successful. Look, Bibi Netanyahu, the Israelis, all Israelis, those who want him out of office as well, can't abide by a decision that allows an aggressive malacracy to now threaten them in the neighborhood with nuclear weapons.
We'll have to leave it there. Rabbi, you have our thanks.